Hey, Chris, welcome to the NTM Growth Marketing Podcast. It's an honor to have you here today.
It's an honor to be here. Thanks, Andrew.
And I appreciate you so much for just responding to my random Instagram direct message and just love the work you're doing at SDFoodies and diving into some marketing that you're doing with your brand, which I think is just really exceptional with what you've been growing.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I'm excited to chat with you guys. It's we get a lot of random DMs, so it's good to have one like this.
So tell me a little bit about SDFoodies. What is SDFoodies and what does your role look like at the company?
So SDFoodies is basically what I like to call is like a very expanded like influencer. So SDFoodies is showcasing the amazing things that are happening in Southern California, primarily San Diego, through me and my girlfriend's kind of like lens. So we aren't like our typical like influencers where we're like, holding up a can of something and, promoting it like that. We kind of go through like an editorial, like longer POV style, going through our experiences in Southern California. My part in the brand is kind of everything. It's really just me and my girlfriend. So she's the unofficial chief eating officer. So she is kind of the person I bounce ideas off of. She writes the blog. She does all the creative writing. I do all of the video production. I do all of the client negotiations and kind of put it all together. And she does all the creative writing part of it. That's where her strong suit is.
Tell me a little bit about your background. I'm curious about this because so many, millennials, Gen Z, they create an Instagram account on food, touristy stuff, whatever, but you've actually been able to go all the way and it's a business. And I'm just curious, what was your background that gave you these skills to launch this organization?
Yeah, so my background has always been in video production. So I'm a full-time video editor. When I'm home and I have free time, I like to do this as kind of like a passion project. And it started in COVID out of boredom, and it quickly expanded. And we realized that there was kind of a niche that wasn't being utilized. There's lots of influencers, but there's not like a good brand where, my girlfriend and I are more on the shyer side, I guess you would say. We don't like to have our like face like way out there, and like, we're not doing this for like the fame or anything. We don't want to be recognized in the street. So we thought that, this is a great way to like, go do fun things, but not it all be about the person. It's more about the brand or more about the company. And we realized that companies also like that too, because a lot of times other influencers, they put themselves so far forward that whatever they're doing kind of gets lost in whatever they're doing. So we found that brands really enjoyed the like putting the brand first and putting whatever we're trying to promote first. Seemed to really resonate, and people seem to also resonate because I also think that people see themselves in us because we're not showing ourselves that much. So people are like, oh, that could be me doing this experience. So it seems to be the right combination of both of those seem to work well.
I love that. And these accounts are really influential. Someone who's listening may not realize this. I mean, for my birthday this year, we discovered my birthday dinner through SD Bucket List.
Yeah, it's a great account.
In Del Mar, which is beautiful. And I feel like this is such a new way to discover cities because I don't really want to go to TripAdvisor and hear like the best things to do in San Diego. I want to experience it through the eyes of a local in the area.
Exactly. Yes. We've definitely found that to be the like, where a lot of people are like, well, I guess I could just go on Yelp for this. And it's like, but you also like a lot of people love our recommendations, and the more they follow along with us, the more they get to know us and they kind of trust our recommendations. So they don't necessarily want the top 10 things to do. They want our top 10 things to do, which seems to work well.
Tell me a little bit about your account size. So you've grown your Instagram account to over 100,000 followers, which is amazing.
Mhm.
What advice would you have for someone to start growing their accounts? And by that, I don't mean, buy 50,000 fake followers from somewhere in Asia, like true, authentic community and followers of your brand.
Yes, that is definitely, we get asked that all the time. And, I wish I had a like cheat because there's really, I have other accounts and I haven't been able to get them to really explode like SD Foodies. But I will say what I have noticed that does seem to resonate well with Instagram and TikTok and stuff is consistent posting and really, really high quality content that is relevant to your target audience.
Mhm.
So, we post every single day at 5 o'clock, give or take, depending on what I'm doing. We post only high quality content. I really don't like to post other people's content. I like to post either content I've made or a close friend that I trust and I love their content as well. Uh, that seems to be the key is original content though,
Mhm.
whether it be you or whether it be your friend, is that seems to resonate really well. Instagram also is really pushing new things constantly. So if you kind of work with what Instagram's trying to do, that seems to work really well. So for example, Reels, I'm sure if you've been on Instagram, it's everywhere.
Right.
um, Instagram is pushing Reels to compete with TikTok. So the algorithm is incredibly friendly.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, it's wild. I mean, we've had Reels go million views and have 40,000 likes and 20,000 shares, and you know 2 years ago that would just never have happened. So the algorithm has turned in that way. So if you follow whatever Instagram's really promoting, that seems to also really help.
Mhm. Tell us a little bit more about what makes a reel great. I know there's not this like magic formula, but I'd love to hear like what are the components you look for in creating your reels?
Yeah, you said there's not really a magic formula, but all of the videos I do pretty much follow the same kind
Maybe
of
there is a magic
it,
formula.
well, it's more of just like, it's nothing wild. It's just learning how to tell a story. The
Mhm.
way you tell a story is basically the same, whether it be a book or an essay. I mean, literally, it's the same idea of you have a hook, you have an introduction, you have the meat, and then you wrap it all up. Like that's not anything revolutionary, but I think a lot of people just throw a bunch of random interesting things and think that it will do well if you just
Mhm.
throw everything against the wall. So we really like to tell a story, and for us that means having that really basic, nothing special, structure to our videos. So it's every single video is telling a story. So it starts off with that really cool shot of food or that really beautiful view, along with voiceover, talking about like looking for the most unique thing to do in San Diego, or looking for this hidden restaurant, looking for this cool speakeasy. So you get that hook, get them interested. And then you have that little introduction of like, oh, it's located here. This is what they do. And then you go into the meat of, okay, here's what we ordered. Here's what the drinks are, and then you wrap it up at the end with like, okay, head to our link in bio to read more or to book
Mhm.
your reservation. So it really follows that same structure almost every time, give or take a little bit depending on what we're doing. But it's nothing special. It's just do it and do it well. And it seems to resonate well with people.
Mhm. So when you are planning out your content for the week, can you tell us a little bit about what your process is like between, let's even start at ground zero. Like you're going to put out a reel. How do you even decide, the location, the brewery, the restaurant, and then even walk us through like any production you need to go and editing to actually get it live on Instagram?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people think that like we're posting like live almost, and then it's almost never live unless someone like sometimes we just went to like a 4th of July event and they wanted it posted that hour.
Right.
We typically, it's such a long process, especially dealing with clients that, like we've worked with huge multinational corporations. We've also worked with mom and pops.
Mhm.
And, we like to have them have eyes on it before we post it, because sometimes, we may mispronounce something, or maybe we
So you have
mixed
some
up the
training
dish.
in place to before it goes live.
Yeah, we have a lot of, because we don't want to mess up, and we also don't want to, you know, put them in not the right light. So we want to make sure that whatever we're saying is correct, accurate, and what they are really trying to push. I always like to say is like, I'm not a critic, I'm a promoter. Like, if I have an experience or something I don't like, I just don't talk about it.
Mhm.
I'm not here to write a scathing review. So the content that we push out, we really want it to be only positive things.
Mhm.
And just because I don't like it doesn't mean someone else won't like it. So that's also a key thing to remember. But going back to your question of, so maybe Monday we create that piece of content, we go out and we go to dinner, we videotape everything. And then I would say, it's like, oh, okay, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I edit it. We do the voiceover, we do the script, we write the caption, we send everything to them. So it
Mhm.
could be, I'd say, at least a minimum of 5 days to a week. Sometimes, like, we've had stuff where it's like months later,
Mhm.
going through tons of people having to review it and check it. And so it's a long process, but we want to make sure we do it right.
Mhm.
And because when you have hundreds of thousands of people watching it, everything's overanalyzed, and you don't want to be mispronouncing something, or having something you said come back to bite you.
Mhm. I have a question on your customer avatar of who you're creating this content for. So, not sure how deep into this process you might have gone as a business, but I think, in my opinion, what allows your content to spread so virally is you really understand your person who's consuming this. Who is this person? Like, if you had to define your avatar of a customer, who is this?
Yeah, that's a good question. It is I'd say average, if you average everything out, a 28-year-old female living in San Diego, who is really passionate about food and dining and trying new things. 70% of our followers are female. Um, so it's very proportionally female. We found that by pushing fun date night ideas, that seems to really resonate well. It's a great like way for people to plan their weeks. So that seems to be kind of our niche that we're going after.
What is your top three date night ideas in San Diego? And if you're not allowed to, as of like client stuff, that's
No, that's totally cool. Well, I mean, like, what do you mean, like dinner or like activity?
either or. And I
Okay.
might be doing this selfishly for myself too, for me and my girlfriend.
Yeah. We actually just went to one yesterday, which is one of our favorites. It's called Candles on Tap. It's where you get to make your own candle from scratch. You get to
Really?
pick out, they have like 100 scents, and you get to like grab, mahogany and banana bread and Prosecco, and you get to kind of play with it and mix up a scent that's just yours. And then they make it, that you get to make it right there. That's a really fun. It's interactive. It's not just like, oh, we're going to a bar or something. It's something different. We love that. We also have a lot of really good restaurants that we'd recommend. Wolf in the Woods in Mission Hills is probably our new favorite. Just opened up. Super cute little New Mexico boutique restaurant. Yeah, it's really interesting. You don't see that a lot, but it has a really unique food that is not just your typical pasta night, or like steak. Like, we have a lot of steak and pasta, and we get a little burnt out, so it's nice to try something completely different. And then what else in there, a good date night? I would say, hmm, we really love heading out to, like, I'd say like La Jolla or Encinitas,
Mhm.
just for like a nice like beach night. We found that, like, if we do someplace that you can have like a drink, dinner, and then like a walk on the beach is like our perfect situation. And beach communities like Encinitas or Solana Beach, or
Mhm.
La Jolla, like that, like where you can walk from the restaurant to the beach in 2 blocks, like that's the best.
Mhm. I'm going to do a lot more research on yours because I think I take my girlfriend to the windmill in Carlsbad and get Thai food one more time. So I just love why I wouldn't say, that I see it plastered everywhere of like the social mission of what you're doing, but I very clearly see just how much it truly is supporting people and experiencing San Diego and supporting the local economy.
Yep, that's what we love to do.
So let's say I want to ask this question on success in digital, as this is something that's brought up all the time of, how do I know this is working? Is this going to be ROI? Like, how are you going to tell me the numbers? As a brand, how do you measure success on social, whether that's a specific metric you're looking for, qualitative, quantitative? What is your team's thought process around that?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a tough question because, there's so many metrics out there, and, a lot of people are like, well, a lot of brands will be concerned about like, well, how do I know this worked, right? And what I always like to kind of go back on is shares and saves are kind of like that's the best unit of measurement I have in terms of, like, okay. And I always put it like in when I'm telling someone or convincing someone is I put in their shoes about like, if your girlfriend sent you this video about like, hey, let's go to dinner tonight, I found this place. What are the odds that you guys are going to do that if you get texted this and it's a great video and she's really excited? Like, pretty high. Yeah, right. So, when I can tell a client that we had 10,000 people go through that experience that you have been through, yeah, something like that, where it's like, and they're like, okay, yeah, I mean, even if a quarter of those people actually followed through, or even a tenth of those people followed through, you can be like, okay, and each of them spend $200 for dinner. You're like, yeah, okay, this does pencil out actually, even if only the small little percentage of those people actually went to dinner. If you put it like that into their shoes, have been like, yeah, okay, I have done that. And most of the time we do end up going there. That seems to be really good because views is so subjective. And there's with so many, fake accounts and bots, a lot of people can make, these stats up. So it's hard to push through that, traffic, I guess, and show that you are actually generating business for people. Some of my favorite texts that I've ever received and calls. I mean, I've had a call from a client the day after we posted our video, and they're like, we had a line out the door for the first time. We opened to a line, and we've never had that. And it was a random Tuesday, the day after your video got posted. And we had, 500,000 views in the night. And they woke up to this giant line of people being like, I saw this on TikTok. I want to, do you have this? That's like the greatest thing. And they were like freaking out because they weren't even ready for it. That's always a great text to have.
I want to interject real quick and just ask you about the video content, because when I'm thinking about visuals, I'm assuming you're much heavier on videos. It allows me to put myself in the shoes of the customer at that business more. Can you tell me a little bit about the combination of video and graphics and why, and I might be just reading into it, but why video is more effective for you right now in telling those stories?
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of it kind of comes back to like something we talked about earlier, which is reels. So what is more effective is whatever is Instagram is trying to push. So you can make reels out of photos, but it's not really effective. So the video is a great way to not only tell a story and have voiceover where you can really explain what's going on, but you're right, like what you're saying, it's more visually appealing. People can put themselves in their shoes, and it seems to really resonate with people. Now, that being said, sometimes photos are effective when it's like a new restaurant opening. And, we found that like, or an event that hasn't occurred yet. And we're like, you can't make video content up of an event that hasn't occurred yet. Those still have their places, where you see like just think about your personal life where you've seen like a concert lineup. You save it, you share it, you text to your friend and be like, okay, wow, look at this cool lineup. That's awesome. We got to go. that works fine because you're just conveying information that people are excited about and people love it. But for something that they may not even know about, or it's an experience they've never even heard about, like you're not pushing, you're not trying to sell a concert to uh, someone that they know Post Malone. You're like, okay, they obviously know who that is. They can put themselves in that shoe. They know who that is. They listen to the music. This is be like, you got to sell them from, they've never even heard of this idea, right? And you have 25 seconds to tell them everything they need to know and put themselves in those shoes where they can be like, yes, this would be an awesome, fun experience for me. Mm-hmm. And you can't just convey that with photos sometimes. Sometimes you need that deeper interaction.
Mm-hmm. Are you using any long form content, whether written or video, or is it more short form, like 30-second video content that you're using the most?
Yeah, we do some long form, and it's worked out well. For example, we just launched a big promotion with this Airbnb company on Joshua Tree, where we have 3 reels that have been posted, mm-hmm. and they're only 30 seconds long, and they're really quick and they're really energetic and people love it. But then at the end of the reel, we always say, of like, when we do have these long form opportunities, we say head to the our link in bio to read our whole review. And it's this beautiful blog that my girlfriend puts out with all of our professional photography that we do. And the average read time on those are 5 to 7 minutes long. So it's really, really detailed. And for people that are interested in that, there is that long form option about like, that video maybe got you excited. You sent it to someone, they're really excited. Oh, we should go here. This is cool. But when you're going to make a, huge, maybe it's a 4-night stay at $300 a pop, you're about to spend $1,000. You want a little bit more information before you do that, not just off of a 30-second video. Okay, well, here's all these photos. Here's all the booking information. Here's what we did. Here's paragraphs information. Mm-hmm. That seems to like seal the deal for some of these like higher purchase things or things that take a lot more information to describe over 30 seconds.
I have a question on new technology. So what I mean by this is either new social media platforms you're thinking about, like TikTok, or new technology in general, like AR, VR, AI, that could give you like custom recommendations of things to do in San Diego. What are you thinking about with some new mediums or new technology for your brand?
Yeah. So, I mean, TikTok is kind of like the new kid on the playground, and we're heavily involved in that. I feel like if you're not constantly adapting, you're going to get left behind. It's so interesting to hear from brands where I'd be like, hey, can we post this on TikTok? Like we have, 116,000 followers on there. You'd think they would be like, yeah, why wouldn't you? And they're like, no, we don't want that. And you're like, why not?
They still think it's the dancing app for teenagers.
Yeah, exactly. And you're like, it's 100,000 followers. Why wouldn't you be excited about that? Like, they're like, well, it's just not really the followers we want. And you're like, don't you want people in the business? Do you really care where they came from? I mean, okay. But a lot of brands are like, well, it's a fad. And you're like, okay, well, if it's a fad, it's a pretty long fad. And, I just don't want to be left behind. And you got to constantly be on that, whatever's hot.
And with that too, it's even if TikTok goes away as of, I don't know, legislation administration passes, it's changed the game of Instagram and Facebook now, of the content, and even YouTube Shorts. So knowing where content is shifting in the future because of TikTok is like, that's what you need to be paying attention to more than if TikTok's around in 2 years, in my opinion.
Exactly. And, TikTok's much more trendy, right? It has trends. There's always a joke on Instagram about like, oh, I don't have TikTok. I watch the 4 days later when the TikTok trends get to Instagram. You're like, okay, well, I'm just going to do both and I'll be right on top of that trend when it happens. So yeah, I'm a big fan of TikTok. I personally scroll for way too long. It's wild how effective it is on its algorithm, and it's much more friendly. So if anybody's like, you're going back to like you're starting influencer account, get on TikTok because the algorithm is just insanely friendly. I grew, probably took 2.5 years to get from zero from like, a few thousand followers to 130,000 followers where we're at now on Instagram. But it only took me maybe 8 months to go from zero to 100,000 followers on TikTok. So it's much easier to grow.
Mhm.
It's less serious too. You can just put some hilarious little funny things. Like some of our best videos have been 7-second long, no voiceover, just a funny little clip that we thought was interesting. And it really works. So, whatever gets people excited, do.
What is a marketing challenge you're currently experiencing?
There's a huge shift in the industry right now with paid versus non-paid content creation.
Mhm.
Brands are starting to realize that they can't just give people free things to do content.
Mhm.
So there's a huge struggle right now in the industry in terms of paying people to do work, which sounds weird to think about, but for a very long time, brands and content creators would just kind of operate, unless you were like on the like Kardashian level of millions of followers. Brands would assume that if you got $50 worth of free things, you would make all this, you take all these photos for them, do all these videos. But now we've realized, and creators have realized, that my work can generate these companies a lot of money in sales.
Mhm.
Um, so it's not fair for us to do all of this work and not be compensated, especially when you're making money for someone, a huge multinational corporation. You can make them thousands of dollars and they want you to do all this work for free. Especially right now when content is king, organic, real content performs well. People
Mhm.
don't want studio photography like they used to.
Right.
You can't just take a shot of, a new soda or a new, kitchen gadget and post it on Instagram and expect it to just like blow up and get a bunch of sales. You want someone you trust using it to sell it to you. So brands are really struggling right now to kind of come to grips with that.
Mhm.
So, we we've definitely struggled with kind of being in this process of, we have enough followers that are so engaged that we can make these brands a lot of money.
Mhm.
So it's very much like this kind of uncomfortable conversation of, they want you to be like, hey, if we send you this $30 worth of this thing, will you make will you spend hours of your life to do all this video work for us so that we can make money off you? It's kind of a struggle.
So
And
is
we
it
don't.
almost going into contract negotiations or shifting for the industry, like thinking maybe, oh,
Yes.
we'll take a percent of upside of variances of revenue, stuff like that?
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a struggle in terms of like getting brands to be on board with this, and just us being paid for our work, because some of these things we do takes hours, days. We got, we've had clients been like, oh, we would love for you to come to, Napa Valley, to this hotel. And it's like, and you're like, well, I gotta drive there, or I gotta fly there. Like, that's gonna cost me personally. It's gonna cost
Right.
me like $500,000, 500 to $1,000. Like, and they're like, I was like, oh, well, do you have like, are you paying for the plane ticket? And they're like, no, you got to get up here. And you're like, okay, well, no, I'm not gonna do that then. And they're like, well,
Right.
why not? And you're like, well, it's gonna cost me money to make this video. That's not,
Right.
I don't want to do that. I want to get paid for my work. I want to, I put hours of this work. I want to be compensated for that fairly. Um, so that's definitely been a big struggle. And luckily, the industry is shifting because brands are kind of realizing that at a certain level, people won't take free things anymore, which is
Right.
good. But there's definitely a lot of work that needs to be done to kind of like get past this uncomfortable conversation of telling brands that you won't just do all this work for free.
Mhm.
That's definitely been the biggest challenge we've had the last couple of years.
Tell us about a marketing fail you've experienced and any lessons you have of that experience.
Yeah, we've definitely had some duds. Like anything, when you're putting out that much content every day, you're posting something. It's every once in a while you're bound to, not have one work.
Right.
And I'd say one of the biggest ones that I regret doing was, we did some work with McDonald's, which, as everybody knows, is a massive company. And I feel like it definitely was not what we should have done.
Mhm.
Looking back on it, McDonald's has a huge company and they have a huge marketing budget. So they were willing to pay us for, us to be posted, which we were excited about. And we kind of, it was one of our first bigger deals.
Mhm.
And we didn't really think about the ramifications of that decision because we were just so excited that, a huge brand like McDonald's wanted to pay us.
Right.
And we didn't think about kind of what our followers at the end of the day would think of this decision.
Mhm.
And it definitely fell on deaf ears and probably was a negative in terms of like the brand. It not only like didn't do well for McDonald's, but like our followers were not happy with us because they're like,
It's,
oh, you sold out, or
it's
this
got
isn't real content.
avatar of that 28-year-old woman who wants to experience new things. Like McDonald's is almost like the old world that she might have been a part of, and now she wants to see like these
Yeah, she doesn't
hidden
she doesn't
restaurants.
care about that. She
Yeah.
doesn't. And that's what, with you kind of come back to the end of the day of, you know, how can you make your content do well? Is it targeted? And it wasn't targeted. It wasn't something that they cared about. So, you need to make sure that doesn't happen, of like every time, a brand reaches out, think about your person. And like for me, I literally have like a person in my head. Like I have an idea of like what she looks like, what she does on the weekend.
Mhm.
And sometimes it's helpful to kind of like brainstorm that out and then like kind of create like a story for your avatar, like you were talking about. But like, what are they doing on a week to week? What are they doing in the week? Are they What type of food do they like? What type of activities are they doing outside of San Diego?
Mhm.
What would they be excited about? And does this brand that's reaching out fit in on that story?
Mhm.
And sometimes it doesn't. So you need to politely decline and think about your brand first, because at the end of the day, if you're not promoting things that your consumer will enjoy, you will eventually, I have a feeling you'll eventually lose attention. And that's where you see some of these accounts that have a lot of followers, but their engagement is so bad.
That was actually going to lead right into my next question, which is how are you and your wife continuing to educate yourself about this consumer? Is it like you're just doing focus groups interviews? Are you monitoring hashtags, the comment threads? Like you're going to kind of competitor accounts, just seeing what people are commenting over there? Like how are you getting into the mind of this woman so you can continue um, creating and distributing content that really resonates and makes their life better?
Got it. Yeah, luckily we are, my girlfriend and I are very close in age to this target consumer.
Oh, did I say wife
Um,
or girlfriend? I think I might have said
it's girlfriend. It's all
girlfriend.
good.
I think I might have said wife, girlfriend.
That's okay. I get it all the time from my grandma. Um, yeah. So, luckily, I'm 26, she's 26. So we're not too far off
Mhm.
of what our target consumer is, which makes it really easy.
Yes.
So a lot of the times, the things that we want to do on the weekend are things that our consumer also wants to do. So it's not that much of a struggle in terms of like finding new ideas.
Mhm.
What I will say, I'd say, okay, if we break it down, I'd say half of the things are things that we just want to do, that
Mhm.
we think of because we're in San Diego and we're like, oh, wow, I heard about this festival. I heard about this new restaurant. We should go try it. The other half is being constantly up to date with San Diego news and other competition, other influencers. So, like I thought I'm pretty well in tuned, I think, to, what's happening in San Diego. But, maybe I get influenced. I get influenced by other influencers, and I see something that one of our other, local influencers posts, and I'm like, wow, that's a great idea. I didn't even know that existed. I thought I knew it. I guess I don't. So, and then we go out and try those things. So, and then I influence other people. So it's crazy how it just kind of snowballs. One idea someone posted influences me, which influences these 100 other thousand people. So if you're constantly, it sounds bad, but you got to constantly be on social media to kind of see what's happening in the world, absorbing all the information from news sources, radio, print media, social media, billboards, like constantly be looking for things that are happening in San Diego. And if it excites you and you're kind of in that target consumer area, it's really easy, because if it excites you, it most likely will excite your target consumer.
Mhm. So I have two more questions for today.
Mhm.
So this first one, so I've been in San Diego for 8 years, and I'm such a habit of creature in the sense of like, I have my gym and I work, and then like I have my restaurants I go to, and my pickleball court, my soccer game. It's like I'm a habit of creature in that way, and I really have to push myself to discover new things about San Diego. So I'm not just always like going to La Papagaya, even though I love it so much. And so with that being said, can you share, why is it important for you to expand your horizon in your city and constantly experience new things with where you live and go outside of your comfort zone?
So I feel like I agree. We have our plethora of places that we always go to, and it's definitely very hard to get out of that comfort zone. But it's so interesting to see that, like, my girlfriend, she has this thing where she'll order the exact same dish at our favorite date night spot every single time, and it makes her happy. So that's fine. But then one time we were doing some work with that company, and they sent out a bunch of dishes that we never have tried, and we go there once a week,
Mhm.
and we always order probably about the same thing. And we tried a dish that had been on the menu that we've seen half a dozen times and never thought to order it. We get it, and we're like, what the heck? This is the most delicious thing ever. It's been on the menu, and we refused to order it because we were so content with what we had always ordered that we never wanted to try anything new. And now it's our new favorite dish.
Hmm.
So it's like, you never know what you're going to like until you try it. So you always got to be excited about trying new places. And if you never venture out, you'll never know what you're missing. That's definitely been, I'm always a big proponent of that, of like, I don't like to go to the same place twice,
Mhm.
because you never know that you're not going to find your new favorite restaurant unless you try it.
Mhm.
You have no idea until you try it. And if you always go back to the same place, you'll be content, but you won't be excited. I think that's the big thing. You'll be content. And who wants to be content in their life? You want to be more than that. So the only way you can get there is by trying new things.
Awesome. So last question for today, which is, what is the best purchase you've made under $100, either personally or professionally, in the last 6 months?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's actually this thing right here,
Nice. I
which
got
is
my
the
matching one over here too. The
Oh,
Yeti.
nice. Yep, Yeti. Yeah, that's, it's crazy. I think this is literally, I think, $100. And all of the voiceovers done on this, podcasts like this are done on this. It is such a game changer in terms of making your content just that much better than your competition. I hear all the time on voiceovers, people who record their stuff like this off the iPhone mic, and it sounds like you're recording it off the iPhone mic,
Mhm.
and it's adequate, but this makes it sound professional. And I think brands like it. It makes me happy to hear that, like, super crisp quality, and it's not that expensive to do. It just ups your game just to the next level that your competition probably is not doing.
Mhm. And I'll end today with just stating, even for this podcast, in terms of my like fixed cost to get it going, it's this microphone. I have a EA, Jenna, who you met over email, who helps to get synced up. I have some Fiverr resources, but it's not a huge capital investment, and not knowing, the full list of all the equipment you need as well, but just your thought process on, having a Yeti mic I'm sure as well you've been able to be very frugal in some of your costs to get this off the ground, and that's what's possible with the internet and social media. So,
Yep, that's
Chris,
it.
it was amazing speaking with you today. I'm excited to keep on following SD Foodies and follow your journey and get some better date nights to get out of my comfort zone.
Nice. I appreciate you being a follower. Thank you.